right, TikTok update. Senator Markey presented a bill to the Senate today, and it was basically supposed to be a bill that if they put it in front of them and no one disputed it, it would just pass. That would have been the fastest way to do it. Well, it was declined. Does it surprise me? No. Now, as you know, a lot of people have been going over to RedNote. A lot of people, I've seen in some of my comments where they're saying, well, why would you go to RedNote where it's a communist and this, that, and the third? I am Jamaican and Cuban. My dad used to do import-export between Jamaica, China, Japan, and Hong Kong. He would import into Jamaica for essentials like batteries, kidney beans. He was actually one of the largest importers in the 90s and 2000s. He now does other things, but that was originally what he did. And that was what put my brothers and I through private school and basically funded our lifestyle. We actually grew up in a really good neighborhood, and my parents really pressed education. My father always told me, an educated person will always understand what is going on. And my parents were always very keen on teaching us politics and economics. And I do that with my kids as well. You always want everyone to make educated decisions. But one thing I did see growing up, traveling to China, Japan, and Hong Kong as a young child, is that I always saw the friendliness of the Chinese people and the Japanese. And as a Jamaican, we are always very prideful to show you our country. If you go to Jamaica and there is a Jamaican, or you have a family member that's Jamaican, we pride Jamaica so much, and we can't wait to show you our island. And the Chinese people were very much like that as well. But I saw this post on TikTok, and this just happened, and I was really bothered by it. And I know that this is very controversial, so I almost didn't want to post this, but I'm going to. Okay. This really bothered me, and I wanted to share it with you all. Because it really did bother me. I want you guys to keep an open mind while watching this, and just know my heart is in the right place.
If you're on Xiaohongshu, you might saw some posts saying that Americans are not welcome here and that they should go back. These opinions are actually not coming from Chinese nationalists or any Chinese people being xenophobic. People who are from China have never been abroad usually welcome Americans. But someone who studied abroad like me are telling Americans to go back. I'll explain why. When you see Americans flooding into Xiaohongshu, they find out that Chinese people are so welcoming and it was flowers and hugs and cheers, even if they don't speak Chinese at all. But what Chinese international student experienced abroad was the complete opposite. When we just got here in North America, when we still cannot speak English at all, people treat us with absolutely no respect. When you don't speak the language, Americans just treat us in whatever way they want because we cannot fight back and they bully us. I got to know how mean Americans can be when I pass the border. I see people with European passport passing through the custom within 1 minute. The guy who was checking the passport barely questioned them anything. But when the border see my Chinese passport, they have to interrogate me like a criminal for at least 10 minutes. That happened every time when I pass through the US border. Even if I'm an international student who is purely contributing to the US GDP, and now I'm a senior in the US college, paying several times more than the local students, with all clear records, they still question my intention coming to the United States in the 4th year. Not to mention that the border treats us with no respect at all, too. And during this past 4 years, I've been verbally discriminated against. People have called me racial slurs, threatened to beat me up on the streets, push me in the bakery, and not to mention all the microaggressions coming from my classmates and professors just because I'm a Chinese student. And my other fellow Chinese students also being pushed in the CTA and being spat at by a random person, being called a bitch inside of US college by another American student. And suddenly, I see all those Americans who doesn't speak our language at all just suddenly flooded into Xiaohongshu and everybody is welcoming them. And I thought to myself, how about all the discriminations and sufferings and pains and mental breakdown and exclusions I suffer in the States? Why don't I receive the same treatment in the United States? If people treat me like dirt in the US, what makes those Americans deserve such welcoming treatment from Chinese people? When I was in Chinese public school, we were never taught to hate Americans. And let me tell you, Chinese propaganda has never taught Chinese people to hate Americans. But the American propaganda is constantly telling Americans that Chinese people hate them and trying to make Americans believe that we hate them. But we don't. don't, as you guys can see now. And that's why Chinese international students on Xiaohongshu are telling you guys to go back to your app, because we're jealous of your treatment, because we're not equal, because of the white supremacy and Eurocentric mindsets. Can you guys see the extreme power imbalance that's happening here? This is extremely unfair for us as Chinese people who's living abroad for so many years. We live in this so-called immigrant country, suffering all kinds of discriminations and stereotypes, and we have to swallow the bitterness and go on with our lives. This is so unfair.
10 years of the United States government and the US media talking negatively about China has finally backfired. I tried so hard over the past 40 years to teach American business people and students how to understand China. I don't need to do this anymore. The flogging en masse of younger and not so young Americans to the RedNote enables them to learn about China on their own. How nice. What an irony. I'm so happy for you.
Do you guys want to know what it was like to only have Mexican friends growing up in school? So from kindergarten to 5th grade, my parents put me in dual immersion, so all my friends were Mexican, and I was the only white kid. And during 4th grade recess, my very good friends introduced me to this game called La Migra. For those of you that don't know, La Migra is short for La Migración, basically immigration services. They deport illegal aliens. The concept of the game is pretty simple. One person is La Migra, and they have to chase after everyone else, like tag. The only problem is my friends, and I was too ignorant at the time to know what they were doing, but they made me, the only white kid in the friend group, be it every single day. Every day my friends would come up to me. Hey, güero, tú eres la migra. Hey, güero, hoy te toca a ti, güey. So imagine a white kid just chasing around a herd of Mexicans as they scream repeatedly at the top of their lungs in a schoolyard, La migra, La migra. And I'm just chasing them. I have to catch them. That's how I win. Like the other day, I'm literally thinking about it. I'm like, holy shit. Pues que todos mis amigos me engañaron, güey. Y acaba de quedarme el 20. I honestly miss those kids, but damn, that was crazy.
I have always been raised in America, and I love America. Now, I will say Jamaica is my favorite place, but I love America. But one thing I have always noticed is that I never really felt that we were all that friendly in the US. And especially when it comes to people that are from outside of the country. And like I said, I know this is going to be controversial, but when you look at it, when you look at all the doctors, all of the nurses in the medical field, not all of them, but a good percentage of them, they're foreigners, right? Most people that come to America come for a better life, and my dad is one of those people. And he has done nothing but work very hard. He is a citizen, and it really bothers me to see people so upset, and to know that they never felt welcomed. If I was to pass tomorrow, the one thing I would want is world peace. Because at the end of the day, we're all the same. We may look different. We may have different eyes. We may have different hair. We have different colors. But we are so much stronger together than apart. Even with deportation. And again, I know that this is a very touchy subject. So if I offend you, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. But there are criminals everywhere. But most of the people that come here plan on coming here to get a better life and retire back home. Their intent is never to retire here in the US. In fact, most foreigners intend to retire in their country. And I think a lot of people don't realize the amount that foreigners contribute to the United States. In fact, Medicaid and Social Security, I looked it up last week. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to tell you they contribute over $21 billion into that. And they can never collect it because they are not U.S. citizens. Think about the amount of farmers that are from other countries and them not being here think about what it will cost us. If they have to hire Americans to farm, do you know how much they got to pay us? Because an American is not working for $7, $8, $9 an hour to farm out there in the hot sun. If you got to pay us, baby, you're going to have to pay what you weigh for them vegetables and them fruits, honey. Like, let's be real. I just think on a whole, world peace would be a very important thing. And this really touched me, and I felt like I wanted to show you guys. I know some of y'all might be real mad at me, but I am one to speak out on my beliefs. And this is not a political post. This is a post about being a humanitarian. And I want you to take it for that. As I said to you guys before, I don't really trust politicians anyway. Like, they are, I mean, they get paid to lie. That's the truth. And I think it's important, at the end of the day, we as Americans, or, well, it's important for us to be kind, because most of the time when we visit these other places, they are very kind to us. When you go into somebody else's house, take off your shoes. Anyway, y'all have a great night. I do have another video that I want to do, but I need to get inside the house. I'm sitting in my car. I was scrolling and I saw this and I felt the need to say something to you guys. I love you all very, 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 very much. I appreciate all your support, kind words, comments, and everything else. And bye-bye for now.